because, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't always get everybody to acknowledge what they've done to
Yeah.
hurt you. They may be dead. It may be some other situation where you're just simply not able to get them to respond to it. I remember going in the nursing home one time and a lady talking to me, and this has been some time, so I don't think there's any danger of any kind of saying anything that shouldn't be said. But it was a lady who expressed about talking to her mother, because even though her mother had dementia, fairly advanced dementia, and really wasn't aware of what was going on around her, she was angry toward her mother because her mother had allowed some things to happen in the home regarding their father, who was dead. And certainly they could not get their father to acknowledge any wrongdoing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
due to their mother, even though she was alive because of her dementia, they really couldn't get her to admit any wrongdoing. And yet it was still eating at them. And, they had a question, how can we forgive our mother for allowing, things to happen and such, not like that. And what that makes me think of is another passage in the Bible where the Bible talks about the dog returning to his vomit,
Yeah.
and the pig back to wallowing in the mire.
Yes.
And if you think about that, it's Proverbs. There's two verses there. Proverbs 26:11 says, "As the dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly." And again in 2 Peter 2:22 it says, "But as happened according to the true proverb, the dog has turned his own vomit again, and the sow that was washed to her wallowing in the mire." And when you're looking at these things here, the pig and the dog, the nature of these animals did not change. Dogs do what dogs are going to do, pigs do what pigs are going to do. And when someone wrongs us, whether or not we can get them to admit that they're wrong, without a change of their nature, without them coming to Christ,
Right.
you have to be aware that they may very well do it again, and so we can have forgiveness towards them in regards to what they did, but the thing of it is, we have to understand that they're just acting according to their sin nature. It's sinful behavior, and whether or not they want to acknowledge it, it's they're going to keep doing sinful things. They're going to keep hurting people. They're going to keep causing problems until that sin nature is done with. The dog is going to return to his vomit until his basic dog nature is changed. A pig, is going to return to wallowing in the mud, in the mire, until the nature of that pig.
Do you think that would happen in the millennium? That the dogs and pigs?
Well,
I
yeah, I imagine pigs and dogs will still do much the same things, but there's reasons that pigs wallow in the mire. Part of that's to keep cool and keep the bugs off them, but it's the nature of the pig. But what I'm getting at is, here's an analogy I've used at our church, and I've probably used it on the radio. If I was outside doing something in my yard, let's say I was out playing with my kids in the yard and we were tossing a frisbee around or a ball, and it went into the neighbor's yard, and I hopped the fence into the neighbor's yard. Let's say the neighbor was home, he was back there, and his dog was jumping around, and the neighbor said, "Oh, come over and get it," and I jumped the yard, and the dog came up, bounded over to me, and carrying the frisbee, and I took the frisbee and threw it back over to the kids on the other side of the fence, and then hopped back over the fence. That would be one thing. But if the neighbor wasn't home and it went over the fence and I hopped over the fence and the dog came running over and bit me because it looked at me as trespassing in his territory, that's the nature of a dog to do that.
Oh, sure.
And so I can forgive the dog. Do you see what I'm saying? I can forgive the dog for acting according to his nature, for doing what he did. But the next time the frisbee goes over the fence and the neighbor's not home, I'm not going to hop the fence. You see what I'm saying?
No,
I know the dog's nature. And I think what we have to do to avoid becoming bitter is we reach the point where we don't excuse the sin, but we can, in effect, and I think God has to help us do this, have some forgiveness for the person for acting according to their sinful nature so that we don't get bitter, but at the same time, we're not going to hop the fence again and get bit again. We don't want to put ourselves in the situation